It is the SABC network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. News network at sabc.co.za on email. Now, Digitize Africa is a conference taking place in Durban in April. It will be looking at how and whether Africans are participating in the fourth industrial revolution. Speakers will come from all across the tech space. Joining me in studio to talk about Digitize Africa is Vika Mbisane, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the ZA Domain Name Authority. Hello, and thank you for being a part of our network tonight.
Good evening, sir.
Now, why did you decide that you needed to organize this conference?
Well, there are many activities happening, in our society and in our economy. The reality is that we live in an age where everything happens through the internet, whether it's government in terms of how they provide services to the public, or it's education, or it's how you do business. All these activities are now best done online, are best done through digital means. So the purpose of this conference and the reasoning behind it has been to bring together different players in the digitization value chain. We talk about here people, whether they're from the private sector or from government or from the regulators and so forth. If you look at the event in terms of its composition, you'll realize that you'll get some presentations and sessions by ministers. There'll be sessions by the private sector, people who provide digital services and products and technologies. But importantly, there's a huge participation and emphasis on startups and small businesses or small, medium enterprises. And it's all really meant to say, look, it is a reality that we have to go digital. And now let's come together and share information and find out how we do what we do and how we can best collaborate. Yes.
We often hear a lot about the tech space in Cape Town, Stellenbosch, Johannesburg, Pretoria. We don't hear that much about Durban. So why did you decide to take this conference to Durban?
Well, in particular, one must thank the provincial government of KwaZulu-Natal for its interest in pulling a conference like this. When we approached them with our partners, one of their key realization was, of course, exactly that when it comes to the digital space or to the tech space, they are lagging a bit behind compared to other provinces, especially the two provinces that you have mentioned. One must add as well that even South Africa is a country, by the way, in Africa is not number one in digital innovation. The other countries that are leading, whether it be Kenya or Rwanda and others. So the move to Durban has been really in partnership with the startup space there, especially your Durban Innovation Hub, Durban Chamber of Commerce, the Smart Exchange, and then the Invotech. Those are all agencies or incubators of tech or ICT startups that we are working with. And the idea is to boost the activity there and also to highlight what is happening there. But having said that, the conference is not about South Africa as per se or Durban per se. It's largely about the whole of Africa. There are a few speakers who are coming from different other countries as well. Because we are trying to say, how is Africa, which is the fastest growing internet market, by the way, how is it benefiting from the digital activities? How can we better participate so that we are not only consumers of products and services, but our startups, as you say, are the ones who can now come up with their apps, with their technologies, whether it's e-commerce or it's e-education and so forth.
Apart from it being in Durban, what makes this conference unique from every other conference that one would go to on the African continent?
Its emphasis on collaboration. It's important to say and to admit that there are other events that are taking place. Importantly, we also want to really not only open up to the players in the digitization value chain, but to the public as well. The entrance in this particular conference is free. We are not charging anything. It's a first come, first served basis for people to register online, because we feel that we have to have the participation by the public as well, in addition to SMEs. And in terms of how do we differ with other conferences, it's really the public participation. It's really the approach that we are taking this particular conference not as a once-off. It's going to be repeated every year. And one must add that with the undertaking by the provincial government in KZN in the next 2 years as well, it will continue in Durban. And the idea is to then populate it and turn it into some form of a festival that celebrates what Africa is doing in digital. We feel that has not been well highlighted. And we feel that other events that have been there in this space have been for a secluded few, where either you pay or it's the typical people who participate in the mechanics of digital.
As the ZA Domain Name Authority, one would think that you only deal with the domains that we have, .co.za or .africa, etc., etc. Why did you see the need for you in particular to be involved here as the ZA Domain Name Authority?
The internet is the foundation of digital, really, and we provide the domain name services in South Africa for people to register web addresses and so forth. Typically, for people to participate meaningfully online, they need web presence. And for them to have web presence, we then say to South Africans, in this whole clutter that is, the internet allows anybody anywhere in the world to have a domain name or a web address. You want to distinguish yourself and say that you are a South African. So accordingly, we say to people, register names that end in your co.za or net.za that really say you are African, you are South African. But importantly, then on the basis of the internet, which is the role we play, then digital becomes possible.
All right, dates quickly.
We are down in Durban at the Durban ICC. The conference starts on the 18th of April and goes until the 20th of April.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us, Vigampisan.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so Vigampisan, they're telling us about the Digitize Africa conference taking place in Durban in